Hey, what's up, guys? UrAvgWarGamer is back with a review of Tier 10 aircraft carrier that has recently got released for Steel Resource, and that is Shinano, the Yamato class battleship that a lot of players are kind of interested in. And I thought that I should make a really extensive review of that because, well, it is actually one of the very strongest aircraft carriers, just like Malta and FDR, and I will be explaining everything about the strengths and the weaknesses of how you can able to make it work in this video. And I have some really spicy gameplay, so definitely keep watching the video because I will be explaining everything: the armor layout, the torpedo bombers, the skip bombers, the EP skip bombers, which are the speciality of that carrier. I will be explaining that in just a moment. But before that, if you are new to the channel and if you like the content and if you find this review very helpful, please let me know in the comments. You can always give me a question in the comment and I will try to answer it as good as possible. I will try to help the community because I'm going to be trying to get to the 3,000 subscribers. So definitely thank you if you do subscribe in advance. So let's talk about the Shinano. Now Shinano is probably one of the most tankiest aircraft carrier in this entire game. Okay, I want to talk about the armor layout, then I will go for the aircraft, and I will also do some comparisons. So let's talk about the survivability first. We have the tankiest carrier because it has 75mm armor thickness. Now, it is very much invulnerable to the 406mm caliber HE shells, okay, let alone AP. I mean, this deck cannot be overmatchable by any means because even Shikishima with 510mm caliber can only overmatch 35mm. This has 75mm deck armor. So you might be thinking that if there are going to be some aircraft carriers that can pen the deck, well, couple of things that you need to know. Midway cannot able to penetrate the deck because it has 68mm HE bombs, okay? On the other hand, Maximilman can do that with HE skip bombers, not the Midway dive bombers. The HE skip bombers can be able to take on this 30mm armor plating. I will explain that how this is really strong armor plating for the Shinano. It is pretty tanky, I would say. It's actually going to be a lot much more resistant even against some battleship caliber guns. But let's talk about the deck armor first. Now it has some vulnerabilities. I mean, the skip bombers can absolutely able to penetrate the side deck armor, that's for sure. It does have a Yamato class style citadel. Now here you can see it has 400mm armor belt, which you kinda feel the resemblance of that of Yamato itself. But then they have come up with the weakness of Shinano because, I mean, if they give this 400mm citadel armor, it's gonna be impossible to citadel Shinano when it gets broadside. So they just want to balance it by giving it a armor thickness of 160mm. So that is pretty vulnerable even against MVR AP rockets. So that's one thing that you should be keeping in mind. But then, I mean, I haven't even talked about the smokes that it has. I mean, it comes up with the smoke curtain generated like on the A6, which is kind of crazy because then you have this really good armor layout of Shinano. The deck armor, the side armor, the bow is even 27mm. Like, you are going to be pretty much resistant to even the cruiser AP caliber when it is bowing in, which is crazy. And I haven't even talked about the secondaries, which I will come up to later. So that is really insane, right? You have only small superstructure of 13mm, so otherwise it's gonna be very resistant to HE shells. Only 457mm guns like on the Vermont, maybe on the Bungo, they can able to have, you know, penetrate the deck armor of 77mm, so they can penetrate. The Conquerors and Thunders can do that, but usually they don't shoot HE. And even then you have smoke to protect yourself. And the armor that can be pretty decent against Montana caliber guns, like 406mm guns like on the Montana, on the Slava, on all those other BVs like Wisconsin. So it's going to be pretty decent at least against that. Against even Bourgogne, the AP is going to be pretty much giving you no value unless you shoot HE and hit around this area, okay? So it's very good. The Citadel armor is also very tanky if you are angled, but one thing that you should be keeping in mind, Shinano has Yamato style citadel layout. Like, it has these cheeks just like on the Yamato. So if you are slightly angled, well, someone can able to penetrate the citadel through this area, just like on the Yamato. Again, kind of giving you the similar resemblance of the Shinano, which is again an Yamato class battleship, or I would say an aircraft carrier. They have converted it, so that's why it is kind of similar. The armor is really tanky though. It's definitely going to be resistant, or not resistant, actually be very vulnerable against AP bombs. So the deck armor can be penned pretty nicely by Hakuryu AP bombs. Even the Manfred von Richthofen can be able to penetrate it easily. So this is one thing that you should be keeping in mind. Otherwise, the HE caliber level is gonna be a lot much more resistant against this Shinano armor. Like, they won't be able to do much about this armor. So you can also able to smoke yourself up, which I will be explaining shortly. So this is the best thing about the Shinano. Now, Shinano also have kind of similar levels of maneuverability, like on the Yamato, 27 knots, very slow carrier actually. Your turning circle is gigantic, 1200 meters, so you're gonna be turning like absolute brick. And then your rudder shift is slightly better than Yamato, but I don't think so. Who cares about the Shinano's rudder shift? But at least there is something to know about the Shinano. So let's talk about some other stuff, which is going to be the aircraft carriers. I will be explaining that why these planes are a bit not the tankiest in this game at tier 10. I mean, I will be also comparing it with the carriers, like for example on the midway, the Hakuryu, especially Hakuryu. So now, first of all, we have torpedo bombers. Now, torpedo bombers, you have 3 sides of attacking flight, unlike 6 sides of attacking flight on the Hakuryu, and then you have something which is kind of good, and that is its aircraft preparation. Like, aircraft preparation time is actually very, very impressive at 49 seconds if you build it fully with the captain scale and upgrades. And these are the torpedo bombers that you will be able to find similarly on the Shokaku, which is a Tech 3 tier 8 aircraft carrier. These are the Shokaku torpedo bombers. So literally tier 8 torpedo bombers at tier 10, which means slightly less speed, slightly less HP, also slightly less torpedo alpha. As you can see here, that it has only 7,233, similarly like Shokaku. But the good thing is the torpedo arming distance is actually better than the Hakuryu's torpedo arming distance. Why? Simply because they somehow having less arming distance in the base numbers value compared to the Hakuryu's slightly higher torpedo arming, which is good. Like, you actually be able to find out in a couple of my games that these torpedoes are actually very effective against destroyers, and you should use them if possible. Okay, so these are the torpedo bombers. Now we will come up to the skip bombers, which is the unique feature of the Shinano. Shinano skip bombers are kinda like second generation. What I meant by that is Hakuryu has these dive AP bombers, okay? And they dive in and just try to drop on a target, taking a lot of AA in return, because the mid-range aura is the highest AA power for a lot of ships. For example, for the battleships, cruisers, they have really good mid-range aura, AA aura, not the best at long-range AA aura. And what kind of skip bombers does of the Shinano is these AP skip bombers able to bypass the mid aura quite effectively if you know what you're doing, okay? Which means that they will take less AA damage, way less AA damage than the Hakuryu AP bombers, okay? So I would just say it's a second generational leap forward of the skip bombers. The AP skip bombers have really insane characteristics as well. For a Yamato class aircraft carrier, they somehow managed to give him 32mm overmatch on these AP skip bombers, which is kind of bonkers. You can actually able to Citadel, Austin, and Jinan, because they have 32mm Citadel deck armor. You can just lol pen them, and you just get a Citadel damage, direct damage, once you just even hit a single bomb, which is crazy, right? And I mean, you have to understand that how to land those skip bombers. I will be explaining that in the gameplay. So you have 2 penetration levels. One is going to be 600 something millimeter caliber, 600 millimeter something, I would say, penetration level, where you can easily able to penetrate all the citadels of battleships, almost all of them. And then you also have the skip, which is like the very end of the skip line, where you can actually able to Citadel cruisers, because the pen is going to be a bit less once you skip like 1 time or so, which I will explain. So don't worry about it if you don't understand what I meant by that. But the skip bombers are really powerful. The maximum theoretical alpha damage of the skip bombers is 27.2k. If you just combine all the numbers of a single, for example, you have 6,800 alpha, which you actually find it in Hakuryu. So the funny part is, they somehow managed to give Hakuryu alpha of the AP bombs, but they are putting it into the tier 8 aircraft carriers, because these are again kind of like Shokaku planes. B7A Ryusei, you will find both of them at tier 8. So these are not the tankiest of the planes. The HP is actually pretty low compared to the Hakuryu planes, but they are still relatively decent because they are giving them at least a heal. So the AP skip bomber is getting a heal, and you have 4 heal base, which is very crucial for making Shinano work. Like, you have to utilize all of these heals in a single game to make these skip bombers so much survivable against anti-aircraft at tier 10. Then you also have these torpedo bombers, and you also have the engine cooling, I would say. This consumable is also a bit longer. Like, usually you get the consumable action time of 5 seconds, but in this case, you are getting 15 seconds of action time, which is kind of crazy. So you will be easily able to get to across the map without having any issues of overheating the engine, as the engine cooling consumable text said it. So that's one of the really good things. So AP skip bombers are decent with the heals, but obviously tier 8 planes. Then you have the bombers, which are the HE dive bombers. They perform pretty similarly like the tier 8 Kaga. Like, literally, they work like tier 8 Kaga. The reticle is kind of like Kaga, but they are tier 10 planes, which is very nice. You have 8 planes in a single attack flight, which is again another very nice thing. And then, since it's kind of working in a one strike method, they are probably the very tankiest plane out of all those planes that I have mentioned above, the skip bombers and torpedo bombers. So these planes can have pretty decent HE alpha if you're able to drop 6 or 7 bombs. I mean, one plane will get shot down overall, sometimes even 2, sometimes 3, but then you will be able to get consistent damage with HE dive bombers, decent fire chance, you will get a fire, and these are the bombs that actually are very viable against dropping on destroyers or any battleship that you want to set on fire. So that is very nice. So the bombers are pretty good. The torpedo and skip bombers are a bit weaker. I will explain that why they are sort of weak, but I will talk about that later. But then, like, similarly, you have the engine cooling time, whatever action time is 15 seconds for even those HE bombers, but you come up with smoke curtain generator, which is I would say really absurd, considering it's really almost one of the best tanky carry in the entire game. And then you are giving it a smoke, means it's gonna be insanely survivable, like really survivable. So these curtain generators are 3 of them, and you can use them after 90 seconds again and again, which is very nice. You can smoke up yourself. And by the way, once I talk about the aircraft planes, let's talk about the secondaries. Now, this is one of the, I would say, first aircraft carrier that kind of gets a secondary improvement, a significant secondary improvement. So it has a secondary, very much accuracy point of view comparable to that of Graf Zeppelin secondary. Like, the secondary armament is very accurate. You can actually able to self-defend yourself if anyone is within the vicinity of your secondary battery range, which is very nice. Well, your base secondary range is also kind of having like 7.3 kilometers, which is better than Hakuryu, and also it has improved secondary, just like I said. It's kind of having the similar secondary parameters of that of Graf Zeppelin, but obviously these are only for self-defense purpose against especially destroyers, okay? Don't expect them to just literally penetrate any cruiser and and battleship like on the secondaries like Schlieffen, or maybe, for example, in the case of Libertad. They are not like those secondaries, okay? These are exactly for self-defense against destroyers, which is a huge value because you are already very tanky, and you're getting secondary armament makes it feel a lot special. The Shinano gets a lot much more value. Also, if you use the secondary battery mod 1, which I would highly recommend, you can get it up to what? 9.2 kilometers. And if you actually able to fully build this secondary carrier, well, you will be able to get slightly better secondary shell dispersion as well as the secondary firing range improvement to 11 kilometers. Now, there are some players out there that are trying to make it very meme sort of Shinano, secondary build, where they just literally smoke themselves up and they just spot the destroyers with the HE bombs and they just literally dive on them, do some damage with the bombs, and then also doing some damage with the secondaries, which is good. But again, remember, the reload time of the secondaries is actually a bit lower side. Like, it's not like crazy high. It's the reload time is actually slow. So it's not gonna be just doing crazy damage on destroyers like quickly that you expect maybe from the Graf Zeppelin, for example. But still, very good thing. Also, I haven't even talked about it, but I should really mention that the HP of the Shinano is 75,000 with the Charlie Kilo flag, which is pretty nice. I mean, you can get as low as 71,000, which is still pretty viable. But the torpedo protection of the Shinano is the most impressive out of all aircraft carriers. They have literally decided to give the Shinano 55% torpedo protection that you're only able to find on Yamato class battleships, which means that you are going to be extremely resilient against torpedoes. Like, it's really insane. I didn't expect that they will be giving Shinano the torpedo protection like Yamato, but here we are. You're going to be very resistant to a lot of the torpedoes that maybe if someone like Holland sent the torpedoes, well, it's going to be feeling like a pea shooter, because they will literally do no damage to the Shinano because of the really tanky torpedo protection. Your anti-air defense is not on the best side. I mean, Hakuryu has way better anti-defense. Don't expect much. Like, Hakuryu has really good AA values. The Shinano can do just fine. I'm not gonna say it's really good. It's just average, slightly above average anti-defense. So I'm not impressed by that. On the other hand, your concealment is also pretty good, considering it's a very tanky aircraft carrier at 14.3 kilometers. So that is really nice. So overall, I think Shinano is a really interesting carrier. If you're really looking to buy the Shinano, these are the strengths that I have talked about. The weaknesses, just like I said, the planes are really squishy out there. I will be explaining that shortly in the video, in the games, which I will be showing you just in a moment. So just watching the video. Alright, so let's talk about the upgrades and the captain skill, because I'm sure you really needed the upgrades and captain skills, because a lot of players are a bit confused whether to build it with secondaries in mind or whether should I build it for bombs or whatever. Well, I will be explaining that quickly. So we have this upgrade of the Shinano. Highly recommended to use the Aircraft's Mod 1. It's gonna improve the air squadron return speed by plus 20%. That is very important. In the second, you will be using Aircraft's Engine Mod 1. Very important. I mean, there are not other like good choices other than this one. Then you probably should using the secondary battery mod 1. If you are not fully building for Shinano, which I would highly recommend not to, because you are still going to be very good and reliant in terms of self-defense against destroyers. I mean, you can get your secondary battery dispersion by minus 20% and also increasing the secondary range, which with the flag can give the secondary range up to 9.2 kilometers. And since it has improved dispersion like that on Graf Zeppelin, very accurate secondary shells, you're gonna be landing regardless a lot of secondary hits on DDs if they are getting spotted. So don't worry about it. 9.2 kilometers is pretty viable and good option for you to self-defend against destroyers. Although you do have still good armaments like torpedo bombers and bombers to compensate for that, but still. At third slot, I would highly recommend secondary batteries. But if you are not really looking to do that, you can always either go for the torpedo bombers mod 1 and skip bombers mod 1 to increasing the range, increasing the attack time, which kind of not really necessary, but it's up to you. I would say this is best. Then at fourth slot, you will be using the skip bombers mod 2, because the skip bombers are the star of the show. I haven't even talked about the insane strength of the skip bombers. You have to watch that game for the skip bombers, so that I will be showing you that why they are so capable. So using the skip bombers mod 2 is the highest value of choice. Then you should use the aircraft control mod 1. I haven't even talked about the Dakar, the plane region. I probably will explain that quickly later. So you have aircraft control mod 1 here. You can also use concealment to improve the concealment, but then your planes on deck are not really the highest. They're good, but they're not like crazy a lot. So I would highly recommend to use the aircraft control mod 1. It will improve the region time as well as more aircrafts on your deck. And last but not the least, flight control mod 2 is really recommended. You want to increase the speed of the planes because these are tier 8 planes, the Shukaku planes, and they are already a bit slower than Hakuryu planes, okay? So what you should do, you just increase the speed. Increasing the speed means that you also going to have slightly indirectly more HP, because you will be not able to get like you will be able to get out of the AA quickly. Like you will be able to get out of the mid-range AA quickly and even drop the attacks as fast as possible. So speed is really valuable. You can, because you can also get to the targets very quickly compared to the tanky planes that you can get, but not really recommend. I would definitely recommend flight control mod too. So these are the upgrades. Let's talk about the captain skills as well. Now, this captain is the most suitable one. I would definitely recommend the Suzuki captain. The Rise Suzuki captain actually improves the plane tankiness by increasing the survivability expert from plus 25 to plus 30 at each tier. So this is gonna help a lot. You know, with this captain build, I able to get the HP at least of the torpedo bombers and skip bombers to at least what? 2000 plus HP, which is very nice. So last gasp is really nice. You can get the engine boost for the last attack flight, improved engine boost, air supremacy, improving the aircraft preparation time, and very important, which is this torpedo bomber skill. Now this is really nice. I mean, your torpedo arming distance gets pretty spicy because these are the Shokaku torpedoes. You can get the torpedo arming distance from 500-ish meters to 483 meters with this skill, which is really nice. You can actually able to troll destroyers with these torpedo bombers. Trust me, these are really good torpedo bombers, okay? Then you use improved engines, improving the squadron speed, aircraft armor, as well as survivability expert, just like I said before. Also, proximity fuse, because your torpedo alpha is not the best. Like, you have 3 torpedo bombers. Now one can argue that these are still pretty hard-hitting torpedoes because considering you are still dropping 3, but again, these are only 3 attack flights of Shokaku versus Hakuryu planes, which has 6 attack flights and having more torpedo alpha. So proximity fuse is definitely recommended. And then since you have 2 armaments of bombs, this is going to increase the value quite a bit. Like the bombers and the skip bombers really can get a lot of value with the bomber flight control. So this is very recommended. Now, you can absolutely build it for defensive fire expert, improving the secondary battery, but I mean, it's gonna get the secondaries up to 11 kilometers, and you are still not the tankiest of the tankiest of the aircraft carrier in the game. Whatever you say, whatever the numbers and figures and facts look like good for Shinano, it's still gonna be pretty vulnerable. So I don't recommend you to do that. Anyways, don't build it for secondaries, guys. It's really not worth it. Well, before showing you the gameplay, last but not the least, well, I want to showcase you the aircraft preparation. I want to emphasize on the fact that aircraft preparation of the Shinano is very impressive. You have 49 seconds before a single torpedo bomber gets back into the deck again. And then the skip bombers also have almost a minute. So it's very nice numbers. These are the numbers that are pretty much comparable to that of Malta. But again, one thing that you should remember that these are still tier 8 torpedo bombers and skip bombers. So that's one of the downside. Yeah, but still I think it's still pretty impressive, this aircraft region time. And then you also have the tactical dive bombers, okay, the HE dive bombers. Now, just around almost 1.5 minutes, you will be able to get the planes, the 8 of the planes back for another strike, and hence you can also utilize the smoke curtain generator. So you can have these consumable alongside with these HE bombers. So that is the really good part of the Shinano. Let's go and showcase you some gameplay. I have really good random battle as well as ranked battle in the first and the second part. You can always go and check those videos out. In this video, obviously, I have the chapters in the description below, so you can easily able to find them. And we will talk about the Shinano during the gameplay. So let's go and check the game.
Battle starts.
Alright, so this is our first game in the random battles for the Shinano. Now, I usually start the Shinano with the skip AP bombers because, guys, I don't really understand that what UrAvgWarGaming was thinking to implement the skip AP bombers design. In just a minute, you will be able to find out what I'm talking about. These AP skip bombers are some of the most disgusting, ridiculous AP skip bombers that I have seen in this entire game. You can literally able to CV snipe carriers in just 3 minutes. I am not joking. They're having so good potential of sniping carriers because, first of all, the aircraft carriers are extremely vulnerable to the second skip that you are seeing on the end of the line. Well, you have 260 I think 290-ish millimeter penetration. They are extremely powerful against cruisers. You have 32 millimeter overmatch on these AP skip bombers, and you have AP angle like that of Des Moines. So what really makes it that good? Just watch this quickly. Dropping the Shinano at the 290 millimeter damage output here, and look at the damage. I somehow managed to not get another Citadel. I got 22k alpha on the Nakhimov, and I still have another strike to do because I can literally bypass this whole fighter squad because, well, you can just always push your, or I would say pull your AP skip bombs without getting into this 3 kilometer aura where they will be able to tag you. And look at the damage. 2 minutes and I got 50k damage. I could have done like 55k damage on that poor Nakhimov because Nakhimov has insanely big Citadel sidearm. That guy has no choice. Even if he would have, like, you know, used that fighter squad to defend himself, I would still be able to at least get a single strike on that guy. And I still have heals to utilize on. And your last skip is extremely valuable against aircraft carrier. Look at the HP. He has only 20,000 HP left. Now, I will try to go and just drop him as fast as I can. And you can see here, this is a mistake that I did. I should have saved some of my planes because the planes are not the tankier. These are tier 8 planes, which means that I will be losing some planes. I don't have some planes that can help me to get a full strike, and hence the reason that was a bit of a mistake that I did. And obviously he's trying to get angle, and I still managed to get at least 2 Citadel. I did like what, 15k damage again, or at least 13-14k, which is ridiculous. I have done 65,000. I think he has only 2,000 HP left. What is this? What is this shit? I just cannot believe that you can easily able to dev strike carriers like this. Within 3 minutes in the game, he is literally having no choice but to die. I mean, maybe you could have said that I could have done maybe better. I could have killed him. But again, I have just almost killed him into the first 4 minutes, so it's not going to be a problem. I can just go for another strike on that Nakhimov, and he will die. He has no other choice. Even if he uses the fighters, he will not be able to prevent the single strike capability that a carrier can do against another carrier. And look at the Nakhimov. It's barely 4 minutes, guys. And, well, I think he's dead. There's no other option else to just die. And this is the first blood, by the way.
Off to a great start.
So the CV sniping capability of Shinano is ridiculous. I don't like the design. This is really bad because if you're in a Malta or Nakhimov flare, you're really not gonna have a good time against Shinano. Trust me, it's really bad. And then you also have really good torpedo bombers. Again, I just used the torpedo bombers. The last drop is the torpedo bombers of the Shinano against that Nakhimov, and Nakhimov died. So that is the power of the Shinano. Shinano AP skip bombers are literally insanely busted in many ways. They have given 32mm overmatch. They have given 690-ish millimeter penetration in the first skip and the second skip. Like, it has like literally 3 skips, right? The first skip, which is like the point blank skip that you drop on a target, it also have the insane pen of 600mm. And the best way to use the skip bombers against battleships is that you can use the second skip that I'm doing on the Colombo. Sorry guys, I was having a bit of a sore throat, and that's why I just skipped a bit of a part. But again, I just used the skip bombers, then I'm using the torpedo bombers. I've showcased you some of the balanced part that it has against the aircraft carriers. But then let's talk about the torpedo bombers, okay? Again, just like I said, you have these torpedo bombers that have insane, you know, what do you call it? The dispersion between the torpedoes. You have literally insane dispersion. Like, look at that. These torpedoes, you can drop them, and they have like, I don't know why they have given the dispersion that almost always give you a almost 100% chance to get all 3 torpedo hits. Whatever that guy does, well, he will not be able to dodge them because it's very difficult. for many of the battleships to do that, let alone cruisers. Cruisers are also going to have a really hard time. And then you also have these tactical HE dive bombers, which always reload in couple of, I would say, almost more than 1.5 minutes. And look at the damage that I did. 7 more minutes and I have done like what? 17,000 damage. And it's already only the 7 minutes I am actually get to the 130k damage. So you can already see that this design seems to be not the best against all chip classes again, right? The Columbo was behind the island, so I have to just drop him once, or maybe someone will be able to get him, or maybe the fire will get this Columbo, and that's how you will be able to make the Shinano amazing for yourself, okay? Skip bombers, I will now showcase you the skip bombers power against the cruisers, okay? Especially the heavy cruiser, like in this case we have the Prince Van Orange. My Clipper, he's my division mate in this game. He said that the Prince Van Orange is not leaving me, so you just need to help me a bit. Unfortunately, there is a Hoffman with its A turn on, and that could be pretty annoying because your planes does not have the tankest of the HP. And obviously, one thing that I have to mention that these torpedo bombers and AP skip bombers are extremely vulnerable against defensive AA fire. If you are trying to consistently dropping the Prince Van Orange, which is again very strong anti-air cruiser, if you don't have heal and you decided to drop it while its defensive AA is turned on, you're going to be losing a lot of planes because these planes are paper thin. You are talking about tier 8 Shokaku plane, let alone a Hakuryu. Hakuryu planes are also pretty weak and vulnerable, not the tankiest, but then just like I said, they are not the tankiest of the planes. And here comes the lesson that I think you should really need to know. Prince Van Orange has a lot much more tanky broadside, okay? The 290mm pen is actually not enough for this guy, so I've decided to use the battleship penetration of 690 something millimeter, resulting in 4 citadels on that broadside. So you also need to understand that which has the citadel armor that is very tankier than almost battleship like. In the case of Prince Van Orange, the battleship 600mm penetration skip AP line is good enough. And for cruisers, for example, like the Des Moines, the Brisbane, the Austin, that have not the thickest of the armor, the side citadel armor, well, you can use the last skip AP line, okay? I hope you understand what I meant by that. So the penetration is the key to get citadels on these ships. And in the case of Prince Van Orange, obviously he was using defensive air fire, but since I was having heal, I will be able to get some damage on this guy. Now I'm using the HE dive bombers, the tactical dive bombers, but you can see here, these planes are still very squishy, right? And I'm playing really aggressive. I think aggression is very important in the Shinano because you are very tanky carrier, like relatively tankier carrier in this game, and you can able to do some really good potential damage farming if you know what you're doing. In the case of Hindenburg, I decided to come up with the torpedo bombers because my skip bombers might be a bit onto the lower side, and then I have to fight against Goering and Hindenburg. Trust me guys, it's gonna be very fun to watch. You have secondaries, right? Just like I said, you have Graf Zeppelin secondaries, and then you also have these torpedoes, which, well, he somehow managed to dodge because I just didn't able to align the, drop perfectly. But again, once you align the drop, these will be almost always impossible to dodge. You will find out, and I mean, you can still able to do like 18, 19k damage, and just like I said, 19k damage, 3 torpedo hits is pretty good. And here comes the fun part. You have the smokes, right? You have the smoke screen for your own self. You can able to smoke yourself in Shinano. You are very tanky, and then you also able to get yourself in smoke, means that this Goering is going to be having some fun. Now this guy's going to get confused, right? Somehow I managed to not land the bombs, but here comes the fun part. I just set the secondaries to hit on the Goering, and now the secondaries are doing its job while if he gets spotted. Look at the damage. I'm still able to do some good damage. And secondaries are just keep hitting him hard. Half HP of this guy is gone, so I'm just switching to Hindenburg. Now the only thing that Gering can do is to just blind drop the torpedoes inside the smoke, right? He can do that, surely. And he completely missed it.
Torpedoes to starboard.
Completely missed it, guys. Once the Gering just got unspotted, I just switched the secondaries to the Hindenburg, even though the penetration of the secondaries are not good. So just remember that they are actually a lot better against Destroyer. Now Destroyer, like Gering, cannot be able to pen the Citadel 178mm side armor. I have to just still make myself angled so that I won't take a huge damage from either the Gering or Hindenburg, and I can just use the AP skip bombers on the Hindenburg, because I'm quite sure that this Gering will most likely die. The secondaries are also very, very accurate, in fact, of the Shinano, even if you are very angled. So that is also very nice. So I'm just using the skip bombers, but again, just like I said, if you're using the battleship level penetration of skip bombers of the second line, it's not gonna do well. And once I started to use the AP skip bombers, which are basically at the end of the line, which is this line, well, you will get the Citadels, because the penetration is decent enough that you will get the Citadel on that Hindenburg, resulting in a funny game, and we get a win. So that Shinano, it shows how strong this ship is, guys. I mean, so this is a victory. Obviously, taken down a Hindenburg and Gering almost myself. 224k damage, 14 torpedo hits, 14 AP bomb hits, Citadel hits, which is very nice. Also gets slightly good value from the HE bombers, like 17k that you have seen in the Colombo. Got 2 kills. I got the first blood, high caliber. Secondary hits. Let me show you the detailed report as well, but let me show you the team score. So 2k base XP, so it's not like crazy, but the game didn't last too long, and that's why I might not be able to showcase some more fight against some ships, resulting in still decent base XP in comparison to the Zhao. So that is really nice. Detail report wise, as you can see, the secondary hits, shells fired, and I got 40 secondary hits, resulting in 19k damage, which is funny, but yeah, they are useful. They're definitely useful against destroyers. Tactical bombs do help a lot, but the torpedoes and the skip bombers are the star of the show, especially the skip bombers. Literally killing Nakhimov myself. He has literally no chance. Taking down Hindenburg, Colombo, and Orange a bit here and there, and done 15k damage with the Ichi shell. So that is really nice. So that's the power of Shinano, and I can understand that this ship is definitely worthy of steal in many ways. But let's talk about the other game of the ranked battle to see the real strength of that ship. Alright, so we are back in our second game, but this is going to be the ranked battle. So I have showcased you the randoms in which you can still have insane game impact by just killing out the carriers in the first 3 or 4 minutes. Well, you will actually able to find out even more disgusting firepower of the AP skip bombers in the ranked battle. Especially in the ranked battles, you might not have tons of planes. A lot of planes are not there, like considering Malta has a lot of planes on deck, like 20 or 25. In the case of Shinano, you don't have the highest of the planes on deck. But this kinda does not really matter, because you have a very small team composition in ranked battles, which means that even though you might lose some planes, but then there are not a whole lot of not a whole lot of ships to deal with, resulting in pretty okay, losses. Now, talking about the sniping capability, just like I did on the Nakhimov, I have tried to do the same thing on the FDR. He was trying to turn out, I can understand, but you can see here, look at the damage. Four AP skip bomb hits, resulting in almost taking down 1/3 of his HP. But I do have another strike for this poor FDR, which I will try to use, and almost 49k damage. This is the similar damage level that I did just like on the Nakhimov, and the FDR is down to only 21,000. So that is the most broken strength of the FDR, of the Shinano. I mean, it's really disgusting, guys. I don't really understand the design of the Shinano with this perspective. So I still have one AP skip bomb to utilize on FDR, but I will try to use it, but I might not be able to get the Citadel which I wanted. But that really does not matter. I can just get up with another strike and eventually kill him. But this is one of those games where my team is just gonna throw everything. The team will just gonna die, and I have to almost do every single thing myself alongside with the Vampire, which will also Vampire 2 I'm talking about, which also did help me a bit, but at the end we still managed to get a bit of a loss. But again, as I can showcase you the escape bombers, I will be showcasing you the torpedo bombers. Now, as I said, torpedo bombers, tier 8 Shokaku planes, but then you have heals on these planes, so it's gonna be a lot easier to stay and survive at least the first attack run that you are doing. Like the Colombo and the Castilla are trying to use the priority sector to their advantage, but the heal will definitely gonna be negating that value that it comes up with, resulting in surviving a lot of planes, which is nice, right? So I just try to go in for the FDR again because I have to literally kill him. If I don't kill him at the moment, my all effort on just doing something about the FDR will sort of get wasted, but here comes a lot much more complications. I'm gonna try to kill the FDR, but our team will not be managing to survive, and their team is gonna be pushing extremely fast at C flank, which means that I have to protect myself, right? I mean, Colombo Sap will definitely have a good chance of hurting me, and since I get 3 torpedo hits, I was impressed by that. Good drop. I still need to do something about the small end and the Colombo that is trying to push. Since I know that the small end spotted me, I smoked myself up. Smokes are really handy on Shinano, okay? You smoke yourself up and you will be pretty much disengaged, and there's no way that you will be getting spotted, which is very nice, right? Now, these bombs are very nice. I mean, the RNG does come into play, these HE bombers, these HE tactical bombers against destroyers. But then if you didn't manage to get a single bomb hit, then you have a really bad RNG. Because almost always there is a good chance of at least getting one bomb hit, which results in like 2.3 to 2.4k alpha damage, 2.4k damage, which is pretty okay. And in this case, I just spotted the small one, which is pretty much down to very low HP. But unfortunately, Colombo managed to kill our Schlieffen, and Shimakaze died by the small one torpedoes. So it's 3 versus 5, and my chance of killing the FDR gets pretty much kind of not possible, because this guy is gonna be pushing up quickly to kill me, obviously. But here's the funny part: the Colombo smoked himself up. My tactical HE bombs will be ready in 30 seconds, so I know that I have gotten some value by the Colombo smokes itself. Now I'm trying to use the AP skip bombers, and since he won't be able to spot me because he's in the smoke, I can just use it as my advantage, and his A is not also gonna work because he's kind of blind. There's no one else that is spotting the planes, so I can just perfectly align the planes as AP skip bombers, and well, this can happen. I don't know why. I mean, sometimes you get penetration hits, not citadel hits, but in the case of taking on Colombo, I just not able to get good bomb hits. But fear not, you always have the HE skip bombers, okay? Now these are very handy in setting fires. You have 50% fire chance, and since these planes are tier 10 ones that you find on Hakuryu, they are pretty tanky, and most of the time I manage to get at least 7 planes intact, landing 7 bomb hits as well, because the reticle is kinda fits into the most battleships at this tier, which is very nice. Now he got the DCP up and running, and the Vampire 2 is also trying to help me killing the Colombo. I'm gonna try my best to use the torpedoes as my advantage. Also, one thing that you should know, that these torpedoes are also very good in setting floods if you hit on the bow. It's kind of like a more skill-based approach. If you're using these torpedo bombers, I would highly recommend to use these the torpedo bombers if any battleship is bowing in. I mean, try to hit them onto the bow or stern, because then you will be having the highest chance of getting flood, and then you can use these HE tactical dive bombers to get permanent fires, or you might get permanent floods if they have DCP the fire. Exactly that's what I did in this case. I got a permanent flood, but he got pretty much dead by the 2 torpedo bombers. So now I have a lot of complications. I am 2 versus 4. The Schlieffen is actually full HP right now, which shows that how bad our team was. And then we have this Castilla. That is also kinda there. And Episcope bombers surely are extremely good against aircraft carriers, but in order to get the perfect value against battleships and cruisers, you have to align them really properly. Now in this case I don't know, I think I just didn't realize that it has a lot much more tankier armor on the broadside. Maybe I should have used the battleship level skip bomber AP line, which is on the second line, which you can see here. So I just didn't able to get much damage on Castilla, unfortunately. And well, the FDR that is still lurking around with, I think, 3k HP. I have to kill him. I mean, one thing that I have to mention, guys, if you are trying to snipe the carriers, do that, but don't make FDR or any ship or any carrier out there surviving in less than 10k HP. I mean, or any HP if it's down to like pretty low, because it's really not worth it. So I finally managed to get an FDR kill, so at least I will be not getting spotted by the CV planes itself. On the other hand, I still have a cover, which is the island and the Vampire 2 for now. And since I have a fear that the FDR can spot the Vampire 2, I just put the fighter. And now I'm going to be trying to use these HE tactical bombers on this Castilla. Well, they can be effective if any ship is bowing in, but most of the time it's going to be a bit difficult as well, because if they maneuver not showing you the bow in position, then you will not gonna get a lot of bomb hits. I was lucky here to get 2 bomb hits and 2 fires, but well, he DCP'd, and I will try to showcase you the skip bomber power here, even though I should have used the torpedo bombers, because he just DCP'd the, what do you call it, fires. I think I should have used the torpedo bombers, but then that's fine, and I will probably gonna miss him here. Just didn't able to align the the AP skip bombers onto the Castilla broadside. This is one thing that I should really mention, that it's not easy. The skill is high, like in terms of the requirement, the skill is not going to be easy to make the Shinano work. You have to be very experienced player, I must say, to make Shinano AP skip bombers really work for you. Now, the thing that I have messed up, I should have used the torpedo bombers, which I haven't, because at least he will turn out to do these torpedo bombers, and during that he will still going to get at least 1 torpedo hit, which is going to be pretty good and important. I'm still trying to use the torpedo bombers, the HE tactical dive bombers, and still trying to kill the Castilla. I know that the Vampire 2 is waiting for the daring to push in, so I just decided to use the skip bombers. Now I think I have aligned those perfectly, and I got a very good drop, resulting in 18k damage. So he's pretty low now. But since he's like turning really quickly, and these, although the AP skip bombers turn like a dime, but then you cannot perfectly align them like in the case of FDR, it's not possible. He will be able to dodge most of these skip bombers. In fact, all of the skip bombers. The daring at least got into the Vampire 2 Hydro, which is very nice. And before I will be able to kill him, the Vampire 2 will be able to finish him off. And then this Castilla is gonna be trying to turn towards the other side, trying to kill me on that other side, but I will try to make sure that I at least get some damage on this guy, so that he won't be able to do that. So I still have almost a full torpedo bomber squad, which I have to utilize. So that's where, once he will turn in, I will manage to get a perfect strike. But unfortunately, I think the Vampire to get into the Schlieffen's Hydro, resulting in him dying. And once I kill the Castilla, the Schlieffen is still left and remaining. So it's gonna be very tough, right? You have a full HP Schlieffen, and you are going to be a bit vulnerable against obviously the guns and the secondaries out there. So it's not gonna be easy. I will try to do something, but yeah, I got the engine. but I'm still not sure what to do about that guy. Like, he's gonna be full HP, he's gonna be rushing in. He will try to do that, but then he will eventually realize that how bad idea it is to push against Shinano. And I will try to just get the AP skip bombers perfectly aligned. Now this is probably a bit of a bug, but as you can see here, I got some damage, and he's using secondaries. I will have the HE tactical dive bombers ready to smoke myself up. I can tank for a bit long, so I should be okay. As you can see, he's not able to do that much damage with his secondaries. He at least getting double permanent fires, I would say. But the DCP will come back, hopefully. And I also use the smoke. So now smoking yourself off means that secondaries won't work, and I'm getting unspotted. Unspotted. The secondaries are also working, and I'm using the tactical bombs. He DCP'd the fire, but even though I got all 6 bombs, dealing good damage, I mean, he's still like surviving. But he realized this, that the time will be over. By the way, this is a time bug. The enemy team has 956 points out there, and they have also 2 caps, so this game is gonna go really difficult. And since you can see here that the Schlieffen is trying his hardest to not show broadside to my AP skip bombers, this will result in not able to do much damage against Schlieffen. And this is the only way that you can, able to just mitigate quite a bit of damage against Shinano. So I will try to do it, but you can see here that's a weak part of the Shinano AP skip bombers. The moment you will turn out or in, the non-pens or ricochet will almost always happen, resulting in getting a defeat. But again, it shows the strength of Shinano itself, that how strong it really is in ranked battles as well as in ranked battles, especially in ranked battles. So I got some guilds, I got some good credits, good citadel hits, torpedo hits, some secondary hits again, because playing close, smoking up, everything, resulting in a loss. As you can see here, the team didn't manage to do much, almost nothing at all. 847 base XP, the second player, and almost 1.25k base XP. Yeah, so it's kind of unfortunate, but it still kind of shows that how strong the Shinano really is. So let's talk about the conclusion and whether you should really buy it right now for steal. So finally, as you can see in the 2 games, Shinano is a really good package. It is about playing aggressive, it is about utilizing smokes and sometimes even secondaries against destroyers, because that is really the interesting strength of the Shinano. Now, one thing that I would say about the Shinano is these torpedo bombers and skip bombers are actually, I find them weaker. Like, for example, in the case of Hakuryu, the planes are tier 10 ones, these are tier 8 planes. The regen time might be really looking impressive, but against tier 10, like cruisers, for example, in the case of like Annapolis, Gudenliu, boosters, with defensive air fire, they will be able to do a lot of planes shot down of these. Because again, these are tier 8 planes of the Shokaku again. So that's where it definitely suffers. If I give a good comparison, for example, to the Hakuryu, well, the torpedo bombers of Hakuryu are, without a shadow of doubt, are way superior than Shinano. Like, you have 6 attack flights, Shinano has only 3 attack flights, and your torpedo alpha overall is less, even though you get extra torpedo in return, dealing still almost similar damage, slightly even better damage than those of Hakuryu torpedoes. But I still find the Shinano torpedoes a bit weaker side compared to the Hakuryu's torpedo bombers. But here comes the insane part. The skip AP bombers of the Shinano are insanely impressive. They are way better than AP dive bombers that you find on the Hakuryu itself. And you have a lot much more alpha itself than, for example, in the case of Hakuryu. So, and they are also very consistent if you are able to get the broadside, and they are very resilient against even defensive air fires, for example, like in the case of Annapolis, because you will be able to bypass that mid-range aura because of the way that you just get out of that, using the speed and able to just utilize the skips itself. The bombers, on the other hand, are also very nice against destroyers, against battleships if you want to set fires, and dealing damage, here and there after 1.5 minutes, which I find them to be pretty decent as well. And also, you can smoke yourself up. It's kind of like really the most insane part, that the most tanky CV, almost the most tanky CV in the game, getting the smoke. Also, you can smoke your division mates up, means that it's also a very good in divisions as well. I mean, this can work in both ways. You can either play for your selfish needs, or either you can just utilize it against enemy team by just smoking up your team. So that's the best part of the Shinano. So I think I will conclude the Shinano review here. I would say in the conclusion that Shinano is worth it only if you have played almost all the other carriers. I mean, this is really for experienced carrier players. It's not going to be easy, guys. I'm telling you, you will be losing a lot of planes if you don't know how to dodge flags, because these planes are really paper light tier 8 planes. No matter, even if you use the Ryozo Suzuki improved survivability expert perk, no matter if you are making them tankier by using the heal perk, if you are not able to dodge flags, if you are not able to mitigate damage by utilizing your heals to the best way possible, well, these planes will lose very quickly, and you will be getting shot of these planes in the deck as well, because the deck are not like crazy insane like that you find on Kaga. You still have impressive aircraft on deck, like 20 in the case of skip AP bombers and 14, but they are still not a whole lot. For example, the Malta has more deck on aircraft on deck in the case of these, and even the AP bombers have more, like 20 and 25. So Malta has way more planes on deck compared to Shinano. So would you really able to, prefer it over Hakuryu? I won't say, I don't think so that the Shinano is kind of like better than Hakuryu. It's like a side grade sort of upgrade, right? I don't think so that the Shinano just straight up makes Hakuryu feel sad or bad, but because that's not the case. I mean, Shinano definitely is way better in survivability against aircraft carriers, but definitely feels a bit short, slightly a bit wonkier when you are taking on battleships, because the AP bombers of the Hakuryu are, I would say, sometimes feels a bit more reliable, because the way you just simply drop and you have this very good accuracy, and you really don't need to just align your reticle. Like for example, in the case of Shinano, you have to really align the reticle perfectly to get the all good citadel hits, or maybe a couple of citadel hits. In the case of Hakuryu, you just have to perfectly align the aim, and the accuracy of that reticle is good enough. The bombs will be just gonna do some really good damage, but then the planes are not tanky. The skip bombers with the skipping power makes them way more tankier than Hakuryu planes, AP bombers, AP dive bombers. So this is one thing that you should be keeping in mind. I won't say that it will replace Hakuryu, but Shinano is a very, very unique carrier. They somehow managed to make the most unique carrier in this game, and since it has some really good historical perspective, it's actually a carrier that got sunk by Archerfish in World War II. I think this is one of the very interesting reasons, or I would say it's a camo that looks pretty nice. So, I mean, you have some 30mm armor to resist against some battleship caliber guns. So that's what makes Shinano unique. The AP skip bombers makes it unique, and giving it a smoke really makes it unique over Hakuryu. So I think for that reason you should buy it. But if you want to just want to get some like insanely overpowered busted carrier, Shinano is not like that. Shinano is busted against aircraft carrier itself, because it just completely obliterated down to the ground. But still, at least against cruisers, I would say Hakuryu is a lot better. Shinano kind of gets situationally better if you're able to get the skip bombers. I mean, the more citadels you will be able to get against cruisers, the better, but then they can easily able to dodge those skip bombers. But in the case of torpedo bombers, it gets a bit difficult. Skip bombers are a lot easier to dodge if you are in a light cruiser especially. So that's one of the things that I want to explain. So I hope you like the review. I think that Shinano is a good aircraft carrier. You should definitely buy it if you have the steel. If you have played already the IJN aircraft carrier, if you are familiar with the gameplay of IJN aircraft carriers, then Shinano is definitely for you. But if you are not experienced player, I think this is a bad idea. This CV is not going to work really well. You will be losing a lot of planes if you decided to buy it without getting some experience of aircraft carriers by dodging flags and all that basics of aircraft carriers in the first place. So this is one thing that you should be keeping in mind. So I will end the video. Give me any comment in the comment section of this video. I will try to answer it accordingly. Whatever your questions are, just let me know. I will definitely going to love answer them. Thank you guys for watching. It's gonna be a bit longer video, but that would help a lot in some good CB players out there who want to understand what Shinano is about. I tried my best to showcase you what this is about, and I will catch you into the next video. Peace out.